Hello everyone, welcome to our video podcast series of Beyond the Resume. In this episode, I'm excited to introduce our first special female guest, Sirisha, an expert iOS developer with passion of crafting cutting-edge applications. Sirisha have been a prominent and influential member in iOS development community with years of experience in building innovative and user-friendly applications for the Apple ecosystem. As a seasoned iOS developer, Sirisha has earned their skills in Swift programming, mastered and into Xcode development environment, and gained expertise in user interface design and app architecture, performance optimization, and app distribution, and so on. In this session, Sirisha will share her valuable insights, tips, tricks, and on iOS development, drawing from her own experience, challenges, and lessons learned over the years. We will discuss her approach to building successful iOS apps, and she will share our favorite tools and resources and provide expert advice on best practices, coding techniques, and industry trends. And for whoever, whether you are aspiring iOS developer or you're already been experienced professional, I'm sure this interview will give you a captivating and motivational session. And so join us into the session. Once again, Sirisha, thanks for joining this session Beyond the Resume. I really appreciate for your time and joining us today. So, Sirisha, I will set up the context of this interview. This interview majorly, I would like to focus on how iOS development as a stream of career. It will help for whether it's a freshers or experienced, and at the same time, what would be the because in IT there are so many domains, and Apple ecosystem with an iOS development is a special stream on it because from the Apple side, or if you look at the latest technology of whether it's Android or iOS development, so apps playing a vital role. So really, our audience will be excited to look into it. So we would like to hear with your experience and your what would be the best aspiring goal for a freshers, to make this as iOS developer as a career. So to begin with it, Sirisha, before we start, would you have to speak a few words or introduce yourself? I already gave a brief intro, but I would like to speak anything about it.
Yeah, thank you, Shravan Garu. You have given much brief about the work that I am doing right now. Much more I want to give is iOS development is not only for particular mobile or any particular platform. Like there is so much of scope in it. Like we are having Watch OS is there, Apple Watch is there, Apple TVs are there, and even CarPlay is there, which we are using in our transportations. It's not only particular field. It's it is expanding in much more rather than native applications, and there is so much similarity with the Android applications, but at the same time there is so much difference between Android and iOS.
Definitely, I completely agree with you because even Apple is expanding its wings to the multiple domains, as you rightly mentioned. CarPlay or WatchOS has already been in dominance in the smartwatches. So yes. So to start with it, Sirisha, can you tell us about your professional background and how you became an iOS developer you landed with? So have you been started as iOS developer, or you started as some full stack developer, then moved to iOS? Can you give a little brief about your career ladder of it?
Yes, I'm having total 8+ years of experience in completely into iOS development. As a fresher, it's been so many years, right? So when we were into recruitment process, the recruitment process has been divided into three parts: aptitude, and there will be some written test over there, and the written test contains of aptitude test, and as well as logical reasoning, and as well as the technical standards. In the technical standards we will be having like all the technologies, also like C++, C, Java, and .NET. But majorly, as I am from the computer science background, and which helps me in clearing my technical things, and I scored much more on the C and C++. Initially, even when I am becoming like an iOS developer, I was not sure like there is some iOS OS is there and it will be used in Apple iPhones or so. Like at the time we are having iPads and iPods.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and one more thing is like when I got an offer, like I'm into an iOS development, then I was like, what is this iOS development, will it be useful in my future or not? I am having such kind of thought. Then immediately I went to my manager and I asked, like, what is this iOS development, and will I'm having any future or not? Then my manager was like, see, we are having three things here: iOS, Android, and BlackBerry. But
Mm-hmm.
definitely I can tell you that for the iOS there is so much of feature when you compared with the Android. At that time I didn't understand what she's telling, but when I started learning the iOS development, I was like, I was completely into it. The technology and how it behaves and how it interacts and how the things are going to change. Like when we started, it is into completely into objective C and completely into that coding. What we have written at that time is not there in now in recent times. Like we have moved from objective C, we have moved to Swift UI, Swift, and then from Swift we are now moving to Swift UI.
Mm-hmm.
The technology, the growth and the change and the development, it has been a drastic change from there to here. So
Great,
this is.
great to hear. Sirisha, then I think you started your career as iOS developer. Glad you got the right mentor as a manager. So you ended up into an iOS developer from the day one to start your career. Right? Is my understanding right?
Yes, yes.
Great, awesome. And Sirisha, I know you've been worked for startups and you worked for an MNC. So would you mind to share your thoughts, how you felt when you're working with a startup, and how you felt you are starting with an MNCs? What makes a difference in working? It could be a working style, or it could be how possibilities or opportunities are ended up with it. Can you share some insights on it?
Yeah, I worked in a startup. Let me take my own example for one project, which called Commucat. Actually, it was around 2016, 2017 time. And
Hmm.
when as it is a startup, we will be having so much of less time frame will be there. Even though if we
For
are having, yeah, if we are having less time frame, we have to complete the app from the scratch to the end, and it should be showcased to the client. So and the app consists of like even in 2016 we are having live tracking and live video sharing, as it communicate is like school application, school based
Mhm.
application. So we used to have like school bus has been started and it is traveling, and it has reached to particular distance, and it is like from your home it is this much distance only. Like we have to show all the tracking. And one more thing is like whatever the frameworks and whatever the functionalities that we use, when we are working in a startup, so sometimes if we are going to use some third party libraries or so in our applications, we should be having a buyout option.
Mhm.
Like we have to buy a third party library and then we have to import it. Sometimes we won't get that much chance to take an opportunity to buy the application when we are working in this startups. But when it compared to MNCs, there will be some process. Like even though if we are having less time frame, we will be going to the client and we will be telling the this is the sequence, and if you are going to have this third party library, then it will be much more easier for our application, and it will be like it will be very useful for our application. So we have to do it, and we have to follow the certain process. And
Yeah,
one more thing is like when we are working in the stand-ups, we will get so much opportunity to learn. But in an
yeah.
MNCs, might be, we might not. But depends on our project and depends on our like the technical skills that we have. Like
Got
I
it.
can tell one thing, like if you want to be a big fish in a small pond, that's completely our thing. And if you want to be a small fish in a big pond, that is also the same thing.
Right,
Each
right.
and everything will having same consequences and same process.
Got it. So, on the same context which we spoke right now about the startups versus an MNCs in terms of working style, right? So, would you mind to share what are the key responsibilities of an iOS developer in terms of I mean, as far as since I've been through some of the startups and even I work for MNCs, especially in the startups, you might get hands-on in multiple domains. It could be architecture, it could be design, it could be implementation, operation, development, and so many domains. Especially when in enterprises, since it has been already process oriented in much, you might have streamlined and isolated teams, which is might be working on a different segments, right? So, keeping in mind, would you mind to share how you treat the primary responsibilities of an iOS developer, considering startups versus an MNCs?
Um, in the startup, if we are having any project, right, first we won't be having much developers. Like first say we might be having two iOS developers, two Android developers, and one designer, and from one from backend. And if the app is supporting for the web as well, we will be having one guy from web. All will be sitting at one place, and we will be discussing like, okay, this is the like for suppose if we are having an application which consists of some display of images, so we will be showing like we will be having login, we will having sign up, and in the sign up we will be having whether we should be going Google integration or Facebook integration or Instagram integration. With those credentials, are we going to log in into the application, and how we are fetching the details from here, and what are the details that we are showing into our application. We all like as a team, instead of having the designs in our hand and discussing about the project, we will be having the requirement, or based upon the requirement we will only like, it's not one person and one person duty to do all the analysis and come back with a solution. It's like everyone's responsibility to do the analysis part and then come up with the approach. And sometimes for suppose in the startup when we are working like we won't, even though the UI is different from the Android and the iOS applications and the web applications, whatever the background hit that we are doing, whatever the API calls that we are doing, it should be the same. It should match with all the platforms. It should not differ from like one OS we are giving one API and the other OS we are not giving the different API. It should not be such kind of thing. So we will follow, and we will start our analysis, and we will start development in parallel, because the login screen and the sign up screens are almost similar for every applications. Might be we are having, so for suppose if we are doing any app for US country, we will be adding SSN number. If we are doing any app for our country, then we will be adding our Aadhaar or PAN here.
Mm-hmm.
The same kind of approach that we are following, and we will differentiate between it, and then we will start development in parallel. But when we realize like, okay, for suppose if I reach to some extent, and then if I encounter any problem, then again we'll be going back to there, and then we'll be checking like we are getting this problem, so we cannot approach in this way, and then we need another solution. But when we are working in an MNC, like it is like mostly into the process oriented thing. So like if we, before we starting the development process, everything will be on the plate.
Mm-hmm.
So first the analysis part will be done, the designs will be done. Like for the designs we will be using Figma or any other dashboard. So based upon that we will be getting the designs, and the architect will be giving the plan for it, and we will be having the HLD and the LLE documents, like high level documents and the low level
Low level
documents.
design.
Yeah, so based upon it we will be going starting our development. Like there will be so much of process before starting the development itself. And once we start the development, for suppose in our startups, if we start the development and if we complete to some extent part, we will be giving sharing the builds to the testing team, and they will be testing it.
Mm-hmm.
But in MNCs what will happen is like, till we complete our development, we won't be sharing any builds to the QA team.
Got
Once
it.
the development is done, then even we will do our unit testing from by ourselves, and we will be writing test cases by ourselves, and we will be validating the build, like whatever the flows that we are having. And there will be a document shared by the QA team as well, like with all the test cases, like whatever the approach that we have to follow, and whatever the steps that we have to take. Based upon it, we will be doing all the testing from our end, then we will be sharing the builds to the QA team. So once the QA team also analyzes, do a one round of sanity testing, and then he will do all the testing test cases. Then if we found any bug, then again it will come back to us. Till then we will be like, uh, we will not touch the builds that we have shared. That is the
Got it.
process.
Got
Yes.
it. So basically, from the startup versus MNCs, in startups, uh, especially there, you involve in each and every aspect of your app development. That I understood. And in MNCs, it's more about if you're a developer, you will more involve in the coding, and prior and after, it has already been processed and setup is done. Is
Yes.
my understanding right? So, since you already have a startup mindset and startup experience, I believe you might have carried a lot of exposure and experience to the MNCs, which might be helpful a lot, right?
Yes, a lot. I have worked in two startup companies which helped me a lot in my career. Like in one of the startup, I am the only iOS developer working there. So in the starting, whatever I do, it is right. Whatever I say, it won't be possible. It is wrong.
Okay.
So the starting days it was like that, but there is so much of scope to learn everything. Like even in our application, earlier we are having MVC pattern, the design patterns, the architecture patterns we are having, like MVC pattern and MVP pattern. Now we are using MVVP, MVVM. Like there are so many architecture patterns has been there. Like if you want, even that is also one more difference. If for suppose if we are having any application, and if you are going to do any change in our application, then in our MNC we won't be directly doing without any design pattern. We will be taking, like we will be doing our analysis before, and we will be checking whether which pattern will suit exactly to this. For suppose any registration application is there which we have to do for MVP pattern. Like
Mhm.
inside application, like even though if I are following one architecture for one application, in MNCs we'll be having multiple architectures for an application.
Okay.
Like for
Got it.
one module we will be following one architecture, the other module we will be following the other architecture.
Different.
But in startup there might be we will not be getting the chance to implement so many architectures for single application, because we will be starting with one architecture and we'll be proceeding with the same architecture.
Got it. Got it. Since you touched the design and patterns and frameworks, so on the same line, would you mind us to share from the iOS development side, what are the applications or what programming languages, what frameworks, or what tools you guys use?
Yes, as I have mentioned earlier we are using Objective-C language for all the coding part, and then Apple itself has been rolled out the Objective-C and then moved to Swift. Like even now we are in the App Store, we are having some of the applications which runs on Objective-C, because whatever the apps that are there before 2015, 2016, those applications should be on Objective-C only. The Apple has given
Yeah.
some support for it, and now Swift also has been replacing with Swift UI. It is not completely, but Swift UI has been
Got
coming to. And when it comes to the designing part, earlier we are having XABs. Like each and every screen is some one XAB. Each and every like for suppose even login is one XAB. Sign up is one XAB. Home screen is one XAB. Every profile is one XAB. But now everything will come under storyboards, and even
Okay.
in storyboards also we are having multiple storyboards here. Like logins as storyboard, it contains all the details of login. Sign up, it contains of all the details of sign up. And one more thing is like the major thing we should be having, like the must and should role of an iOS developer should be knowing much more about the instrumentation tool, which like if we are developing any application, and then we want to know whether how the CPU consumption is, how the
Mm.
memory utilization is there. And if for suppose in our coding we will be creating so many variables or so many objects for it, but we are not using inside our application. Even though we are using, like there will be some memory leak will be there because of the object that we have created. So we have to check the whether we are having any memory leaks or there or not. And
Mm.
based upon the CPU utilization and the memory leaks, might be there is a chance for the application to crash. Like it is not consistent, but it is sometimes it will happen in the intermediate ways. So we have to check, like instrumentation tool is the best tool that Apple has provided us. By running our all code into that instrumentation tool, we will get to know, like whether we are having any memory leaks or there, or it will also check whether the memory leaks will come after running some particular module and some particular function in multiple times. It will also check whether we are having any like high CPU utilization in particular time period. Based upon that, we will analyze it, and we have to change our code respectively. That is one more thing. And the other one is like the test cases. Whenever we are writing any function or anything, even a single line of code, if we have changed in an existing project or in a new project, we have to write UTs and FTs respectively. UTs means unit testing, and the FTs means function testing.
Mhm.
Unit testing means just for a particular function without manual intervention, we have to check. And functional testing, without any manual intervention, we have to check from the starting, like from the scratch to the end. We have to check the complete flow for a particular function. Like we have to write our things. Earlier we used to write in Cucumber test. Now it is also has been migrated to XUI test, which is much more easier for a developer to write in our own text.
Okay, got it. So if I understood appropriately, so a decade ago or maybe 5 to 6 years back, how you usual process has been drastically changed, and it seems by listening to you, it seems now the methodologies or process or coding is been much easier than the earlier, right? That's what has been happened during
Yes.
this transition, especially in the Apple ecosystem. Got it. Great. So, Sirisha, one more thing. Now it comes to my favorite part. Would you mind us to share the development process from ideation to launch? Take it any example from your experience or new one, however it is. If somebody is, especially keeping in mind of startup, which you've been shared already, right? If somebody is giving you idea, saying, okay, this is the kind of app which I'm looking like, which I need it. And from that point, how you take that idea and make sure it is being, deployed to Apple Store. So can you share the process, what you follow, not technically too much or not in a high level, or however you feel, the keeping in mind of a fresher, if you can share that flow, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. First of all, when we get any requirement for any application, we will be thinking like first the UI part has to be finalized first. Like whatever the screens that we are having, whatever the functionalities that we are having, and we will be thinking like first the UI has been finalized, then the backend. Like whatever, whether like here also we are having two things, whether the application is completely like local application, like which the application itself will be having the DB, internal DB, and the data has been stored in that particular DB, and fetching it like without any internet connection. The other one is like it is directly interacting with the network layer. So if the application is being touch base with the network layer, then we need a backend resources as well to complete give the APIs and everything. So once those are finalized, then we will be like for suppose we have to take in consideration with the few more things, like for suppose our application is something like which supports the color blind people as well, so we have
Hmm.
to take consideration for those as well. And then we whatever the colors and the fonts that we are using inside our application, we have to we have to check for it as well. And so for suppose sometimes some of the applications which deals with we are having an application but we contains the screen, but it will be useful for the blind people as well, then we should be having a voice over for each and every screen. So like for suppose if you want to navigate back, or if I want to navigate front, there is an option called next and back. but still the user cannot tap on the use next and back. So we will be giving an voiceover. Based upon the voiceover, we will be recognizing and giving it. We have to take consideration for everything. And the other one is like whether we are going to use any third party libraries or not. For suppose if we want to do a Google sign up or Google navigation or any such kind of thing, if we want to go import in our application, we have to take consider for those as well. Like for suppose if I want to do an now notifications will be there. If the no, if those notifications are coming to our applications, even for those as well, we are having native applications APNS push notifications which provided by the Apple, or we want to go for the third party like Google and everything, we are having fire based notifications.
Mm-hmm.
Based upon it, we will be considering and we will be taking our approach. Like because most of the time the notifications will be taking from the Google itself, because if we are going for the APNS notifications, it will be only specific to particular iOS platform. But if we are having the same app in Android as well, we have to get the backend API, right? It should be same from both iOS and Android. So most of the chances we might be opting for the Firebase notifications. So that those as well we will be considering. And then we will be starting with our development process and everything. As I have told you, like we need be checking the memory leaks and everything, CPU utilization and everything. Because if the memory leaks are more, and if we submit our app to the App Store, the App Store people will be rejecting the app, because of
Mm-hmm.
we are having the memory leaks and we are having the crash. Unless like Android or any other platform, iOS will be having a long checklist for submitting the app to the App Store. First we need be having the certificate, which we can buy for 1 year, and we can submit 100 applications for based upon the certificate. And we would be having the development and the distribution certificates as well in order to submit the app. And we have to register our app, we have to register our bundle ID for the App Store. If the bundle ID and the app name are like both in both consideration, if they are unique in the App Store. Like for suppose if I want to do an app which is like the name should be WhatsApp, and I'm using the same bundle ID of the WhatsApp bundle ID, app will
Mm-hmm.
reject, because already the
Okay.
app is there and you are not there. And even I am from the same organization also, I cannot submit the second app again.
Oh, okay.
And like earlier, there will be 7 days of manual testing by Apple developers will be there. And in the 7 days, the app might get into the App Store, or the app might get rejected and come back to us with the same feedback. Like
Okay.
in this particular instance we are having. And sometimes like when we are submitting any app to the App Store, even though we are not having any crashes, or even though we are not having any memory leaks into it, the app might reject because of the screenshot that we have provided, or it contains an inappropriate data. Or one more thing is like by running so many times, the app is attaching to other app,
Mm-hmm.
taking the data from the user. Like before, if we like when we are opening any app, we will be getting some notification like allow your app to track your app.
Yeah.
So that if we are allowing the app, even the app is in the background, the app notifications will be going and the app can track the data. But
Okay.
now, if you are trying to take the user's data without user permission, the Apple Store itself it won't allow.
Got it. Got it. So
So
it's basically some of the privacy settings which Apple has been recently changed, right? Maybe a couple of years back. So is that what you've been referring to?
yes, in iOS 15, from iOS 15, we are having a lot of privacy tracking data is there, and if there is a one single violation, also App Store will reject our applications. Like we have to take in consideration for everything, and then we have to follow the same approach. Like whatever the in the standard way we have to follow. It should not violate any of the rules that Apple has provided us.
Got it. Got it. Thanks a lot, Sirisha, for sharing that workflow. And now let's come to our next thing, like in terms of industry trends or best practices. So would you mind to share like how yourself stay up to date with the latest trends and best practices of iOS development? And how do you incorporate this knowledge into your app development? Like you've been mentioned earlier, it was Object-C, then it was Swift, now it is Swift UI. So Apple itself, been transitioning to different way of working style in terms of coding. So how do you keep yourself up to date? Along with it, Apple itself trying to get into so many domains like CarPlay or iOS and OS, WatchOS, and a lot of things, right? So, how you monitor yourself to keep up to the trends?
Yeah, one thing is like good thing is like Apple itself will help us. Every year they will conduct an event, and within the event they will introduce the new devices and as well as the new technologies as well. For
Mm.
suppose, when I started working on it, I worked on Objective-C. Later they moved to Swift, and earlier when they moved to Swift, they are giving an option to choose us whether we if we are creating any project to write in Objective-C or Swift, and later they restricted with like only Swift is allowed right now. If you want to write any of the project like from the scratch, we cannot write in Objective-C.
Mhm.
And one more thing is like whatever the releases that they have done, there will be complete documentation on it. Like for suppose if one method has been deprecated with the other method, like earlier we are having something like cap delegate, we are having some methods and the method has been replaced with other methods. Apple itself, like when we are writing our code in our Xcode, Apple itself will not allow us to write the old methods. It will give
Okay,
us a
okay,
warning or it will give us an error to it. So definitely if you want to develop our applications, we should be in knowing the new things and knowing to the new technology. And one more thing is like if you are going for the Swift UI elements, and if you are trying to do the Swift things in Swift UI, it won't allow us. Even the
okay.
functionality wise and the UI wise, they even though they look similar, but it won't allow us to import those functionalities here.
Got it. So Apple
But
itself setting up strict guidelines which developers has to adhere. So definitely you end up following those.
yes, and one more thing is like for suppose earlier we are having iPhone 5s and iPhone SE devices. But when we upgraded to iOS 16, now we are not even seeing the simulators of iPhone 5s and iPhone SE here.
Mm.
Even iPod is also not coming up, like because the Apple itself want to diminish this one.
Depreciating.
And yes.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. So, and one more quick question on the same line, on the similar lines, Risha. Like, what are the common mistakes or pitfalls that developers should avoid when especially developing the iOS applications? And some of you already been mentioned, like, following privacy settings, following SL requirements. Apple have a certain checklist to adhere to before submitting to the, Apple Store kind of it. So while doing this process, what the developer mindset should be when developing the specific app, keeping the app application for the Apple Play Store guidelines or community guidelines, what they need to do.
First thing is like most of the mistakes that the iOS developers will do is like we will be developing the app. Once the app is ready, then we will be purchasing the certificates that are required to push the app to the App Store. But that
Hmm.
shouldn't be the case. Like before starting the development itself, we should be having development and distribution certificate so that we can check our application in multiple devices. Like if I
Hmm.
want to check my application in a real device, it might differ. And there is a lot of differences between simulator and actual device. For suppose the tracking, if you consider the navigation part, we cannot see all the navigation part in our simulators. We can track by using some VPN, but it's not accurate. But if you want to track the actual real data, then we have to test in our real devices. If you
Hmm.
want to test in our real device, then definitely we should be having the distribution certificate here.
Okay,
It's like a
got it.
cycle thing.
Okay,
If I want to do this, then if I have to do this. That
got
is
it,
one
got
thing.
it.
The other one is like having inappropriate architecture. As I have mentioned, like we are having so many architectures. Like earlier we are having only MVC, model view controller, but now MVC is like outdated one. We
Mm,
would be needing MVVP or MVVM architectures. Those are
mm.
the best architecture, and design patterns as well. Whatever the design pattern that we are following, we have to stick on to it. These two
Got
are major consideration when we are developing any application. It's not related to only iOS. It is like for Android, and as well as for web as well. Like if you are developing any application, we have to stick on to our architectures, and we have to stick on to our design patterns. Based upon those only, we can be going in our writing our code, and based upon that only our application will be like smooth, in a smooth way. And the other one is like, just for suppose, just thinking like in future also, if there is some enhancement is coming to this requirement, then how we can give it. Like for suppose, if I have taken as some local variable and then passing all the data to a local variable, and then using inside my application, and then maybe in future there might be a requirement coming, which needs to be taken from the data from this local variable. It should not be
it.
that case. So we have to think in that way as well. And we have to think like, but at the same time, all the variables should not be a global variables.
Mm.
It will do a CPU utilization more, and sometimes there will be a chance of memory leaks as well.
Mm.
And what
Got
the best practice is like, we should be writing our own test cases for it.
got it. Got it. Thank you, Sirisha, for sharing those details. So, Sirisha, now I'm moving to the next topic in my mind. Like, especially this is on the team collaboration, especially development itself, very big team collaboration activity, since you need input from different teams or different business units altogether. So, would you mind to share how do you collaborate with designers or product managers, any other stakeholders in the app development process, and what strategies do you use to ensure that everyone is on the same page? So, especially because when multiple captains and when multiple team members and multiple different domains definitely gives a lot of ideas or keep a lot of things on the board. So, how do you make sure everybody on the same page before developing or before delivering something?
Let me explain this in a like with one example that I have faced in, like, it happened in one of my startup. And like when we got an requirement for like steel application, it's like the name is steel hearth. So the designs are like very good, but sometimes we have to give an explanation for that for suppose the iron metal is there, we have to give an explanation to it. So there will be a lot of text inside the
Mm,
application. If even though, if as an user, if you are going through the application should be always user friendly. It should not be very lengthy statements which user has to read, and every time when we are going to purchase or do anything from the application, even that will be feel bored for the user as well. So whatever the applications that we are designing, it should be always user friendly applications. Like as I
mm,
has mentioned earlier, like it should be like color, even color blind people also can use the application. Sometimes Apple will reject because of that reasons as well, like the application is not color friendly for the color blind people, so we were
mm,
going to reject. So in those scenarios, we got like, we have to show all the detail of for the particular metal which we are like as a composition. For the, if we want to make iron, we have to do some one, we include one metal to it, and the metal has some description. So our designer, what he has think is like, he has given the text format, and we like we thought like it will be a one para or two para, and then we will based upon the after the para, if we click on agree, then he is okay to proceed with that metal.
yeah,
But what the client has provided us like almost like 3 to 4 pages of text detail he has shared. So again, it it is not user friendly. Then that particular screen reading all the context is not user friendly. So at that scenario we will be including some videos, some gifs to it. So based upon that, it might, we can reduce the like it will be user friendly as well, and that as well it will be helpful for the user. And as well it will be like by seeing it, we will not be seeing so much of text. As we are showing everything in our video, we might not the text. But some of the applications we have to do some agreement signs, like
Hmm.
we'll be having some digital signatures here. There we cannot implement the videos or gifs in that agreement format. We will be showing all the text, and then we will be proceeding in that way. So, and here one more thing is like, as I have told you this one, the example of this project. So we have changed in the way, the like instead of having the text, we have introduced videos in there, and we
Yes.
have added the images there, so that it will be easy for the
Okay.
user to understand. Like instead of showing in the text format, we will be showing, if we have shown in the pictorial representation, the user will understand more, the
Yes.
impact will be more. And one more thing is like, most of the times the UI will be same for both iOS and Android, but some of the cases, the app should not be similar to iOS and Android,
Hmm.
because some of the things will be native for Android, and some of the things will be native for iOS, which we, if we want to change, like instead of writing two lines of code, if you want to do the same kind of thing, same kind of UI for both iOS and Android, we might have to implement like, instead of two lines we will be having like 20 lines of code.
Hmm.
Those also needs to be considered when we are developing an application. And then if you, the users, if the client or the particular person is stick on to the particular UI, then we have to go for the approach. Otherwise, the best way to is like using the native components that Apple has provided us.
Correct. So when you have this kind of discussions with the stakeholders, right? When they want to keep text, when you suggest might be images or videos. So, like, how do you make sure they listen to you, or how do you make sure they understand what's your thought process, and how you get the agreement from them?
Uh, this actually I have done in two ways, for the startup and as well as MNCs. For the startup, we will be doing the POCs on it, and we will be
Hmm.
showing to our stakeholders. Like, for suppose, as I told you, like instead of having multiple paras, we'll be having a video, and then we will be projecting, like we will be doing a sample POC to it on the particular module, and then we will be showing. If the client accepts, then we are proceeding with this one. If the client no, if they have stick on to that particular point, then we will be telling it might be it might not be user friendly. Then if you have insisted, then again we will be proceeding it, but it will get an impact on the users as well. Please consider it. But in when we are working in the MNCs, we won't be doing any POCs or anything, but we will be doing, like we will be giving our solutions to it, the LLDs and the HLDs, right? We will be sharing all the details. Like if we have this one in our approach, then it will be easy. These are the benefits. These are the pros. These are the cons. Like always, everyone will be like, even in the startup or even in the MNCs, everyone should be like, the app should reach to multiple people, and the app should be user friendly. If they are having like a lot of text, even any person will not be agree to it. If the app is not
That's
user
the
friendly, no one is using.
Yeah, obviously, end of the day, the common goal is app should reach to millions or
Multiple.
billions. That's the anticipation. Got it. So, can you share some examples of your successful team collaborations that resulted in a great applications? Like, you might build so many applications. So, of course, all the applications are best. That's why you develop it. End of the day, that's the obvious answer. But apart from that, you might have one among all these the best app which you might felt your dedication or your hard work or your collaboration. There may be a lot of featured outcomes of this might be a great app. Can you share such kind of apps which you developed?
Yes. Like till now, I have worked in 5 organizations, but whenever you asked about the project, the first project comes into my mind is my Communicate application, where we have completed within 2 months of time period by integration all the navigations and as well as videos and live footage as well. Like
Great.
we have implemented those that application in 2015 and 2016. At the time, the live footage is like the streaming of live data is like it's not as it is right now, because right now we are having so many third party libraries which will be having like all the data has been divided into chunks and then get into our application and then streaming. But at the time we are not even having those. And as well as
Mhm.
we have included the messaging application as well. Like
Okay.
even some, like when we completed the application within 1 month and 15 days, when we are doing sanity testing there, and we found out like sometimes we are getting the messages and sometimes we are not getting the messages. Like
Oh,
it's even the OTP is also sometimes we are getting and sometimes we are not getting. And the navigation sometimes it's like it is rendering slowly. Then we have taken a step back, and then we have gone through the complete code and we have analyzed like what are the mistakes that we have done. And we like we made the application so far, like, and when we put it in the app store and we have sold to all like in the Dubai it was there. And within 2 to 3 months period we got more than 1,000 of installations for that. Like this is only for one particular school. And
got
within
it.
a span of an year, and the application was like so popular in the Dubai countries. We are like
Awesome.
very happy for that application. Like uh, because even though we are using sometimes third party libraries, the like we have to take an agreement with those third party libraries. So why uh, at the time when we have started development and when we complete and when we put to the app store again, we have like as a team we collaborated and then we discussed like why we are going for the third party libraries. Instead of that, we can only implement the third party framework and then we can use our own frameworks to it. So for the messaging app and as well as for the OTP generation, we have used our own frameworks, which is very like developing an app is different thing and developing in a framework is completely
Indeed.
different thing. Because once we have developed the framework, we can be using in our pods, and then based upon the pods we can use in any of the applications. So that framework implementation of that framework is very challenging and very interesting at the time.
Got it. Got it. I hope you learned a lot on that application while you're
Yes,
developing that
lot.
application. Yeah, I appreciate that. Really, I mean that's a great story to hear because always successful stories will inspire people. So now coming to the same line with a different topic, like what advice you give to someone interested to become an iOS developer? Considering that, what skills or knowledge do you think are essential for success in this field? Keeping in mind of I might prefer as a fresher, but nobody's a fresher because everybody might have a little knowledge on certain things. That's why they come into certain domain. So can you share skills or knowledge required? For example, even though I have so many of experience, if I want to become an iOS developer, what skill set I need or what knowledge I need to attain to get into this field?
Let's say if we want to become a native application developer, like we are having hybrid application developers as well, like React
Mm,
Native, Titanium. Like these are the frameworks which we can write our code, and then it will be like once we are ready for the build, once we release the build, it can be installed in both iOS and Android as well. We are
mm,
having the hybrid applications as well. But if you want to become an iOS developer, like whatever the coding, whatever the technology that we are in, the logical part will be same.
okay,
Even if you consider any application, even in the Android and even in the iOS or even in the web, we will be having the same logical part. The logical part will remain same. If if someone wants to become an iOS developer, and like just I am giving a glance of the future as well. Like we are every year we'll be having one event and we'll be having new technologies. Like if someone is interested in learning new things and getting bored of using the same old things, then iOS platform is the best platform to learn, because whatever the methodologies that we use in the last year we are not using it currently. Whatever the privacy settings or policies that we are having the last year, we are updated to the new one. Like we are having the old ones, but still we can use the updated ones.
Updated
And
ones,
one
yes.
more thing is, like it's not sticking on to own only iOS. Like for suppose if you are a native application developer, and if I earlier the objective c language is there, right? Though it is completely into object oriented language. Now Swift has come, and it is almost similar to Java. Like we'll be having classes, structs, and everything. So it is almost similar to like if you are writing some code in Swift for iOS applications, you can see if you are seeing any Java code for Android applications, you can compare each and every line to line. You can compare, and because there is so much of similarities between iOS and Android. Then and one more thing is like we can always become a full stack developer here. Full stack developer for the applications, native applications. Like
That-
the growth and the scope is much more when we are an iOS developer. Like with the one technology that we are using for Swift, which can be easily understandable. And suppose for a fresher also, if you are seeing the Swift code, it is very easy to understand. Like it's not that much complex. It won't be like so many things. And it's like each and everything is like very detailed way. Like for suppose if you are considering any protocols, and if you are considering any delegates as well, if you see the code even for a fresher, it is very understandable. Sometimes if we are going, and now even Android also has been a new technology called Kotlin. Even Swift also has similar way of styling and similar way of coding when compared with the Kotlin. So if we learn Swift language, then it is much more easier to learn the other technologies, and we can be a full stack developer in the future.
Great. Awesome that. Audience, I hope you got the context, and if anybody has been want to become an iOS developer, then it's a good time, and there is a lot of future I can see with this platform. Thank you, Shirisha, for sharing that. And moving to the next thing, obviously you shared some resources, audience, some of the references, books or courses which are available. I'm going to put that in this video link in the description. Kindly go through that if you want, to follow want to become an iOS developer, and some resources. Sirisha, would you mind, apart from that, would you mind to share some resources or online courses or books for individuals who want to learn iOS development? I know Apple Docs have a lot of documentation, but yeah, would you mind to share?
Yeah, even sometimes if I am also having any doubt, definitely I will go and refer the Apple Docs itself, because they were having a lot of detailed information. And whatever the coding that, for suppose if we are considering any navigation bar itself, they are having multiple documents there. And the other one is like WWDC videos.
Mhm.
Even though they haven't explained completely, at least they will introduce about the new topic and new models that they have introduced, and based upon that we can refer to our docs.
Great, awesome. That's absolutely true. So, Teresa, this is the other last, and almost we are closing to that. But this is also a future of most of us, like a future of iOS development. Would you mind to share or think how the future holds for the iOS development or developers, and how do you see the industry is evolving in the coming years, especially in this, iOS development and specific domain side?
Yeah, when we compared with our previous years, like first, let's say 2008, 2010, if someone is having an iPhone, like it's really great to have to see that iPhone. But now in everyone's hand, we are having an iPhone. Or let's say it's not about only iPhone. It's now it's like mobile is a mandatory thing when we are going out. And earlier we, like for suppose when we consider some payment applications, we earlier the stage is like the payment should be done on through the web, because web is a secured one and the mobile is not a secured one. But now in the recent times, all the applications which we are having web or has been migrated to the native applications, irrespective of what the technology and the OS, we are having everything in our hand. And the things are evolving a lot. Like without mobile, and it is easy process as well. Like if you want to do something, if you like if you want to send some money to my particular person, it's like it is very easy to send from the application, from the app. But if you are trying to log in from the mobile app, like for suppose in the web, if I want to do some transaction, I will be doing giving my mail id or the password or the id that it has been generated, and I have to remember it, and then I have to log in, and then I have to select the person, and then I have to do the transaction if you're doing from the web. But in the app, when we are doing, we don't need to remember anything. We just need to show our face, and the face id itself will be taking all the details that we have already logged in. And by face id we will be tracking the details, and we will be showing like what are the last transaction has been done on the user, and then he can easily go and do the transaction. This is related to the payment app. Even much more similar, like even if we are not having any face id, sometimes fingerprint access will be there, sometimes passcode, the phone passcode will be the same for the applications as well. So the native applications are like much easier and much accessible one.
Got it. So already we saw so many apps coming and rather revolutionized, whether it may be a social media, whether it may be a banking and financial institutions. So everybody is exploring the app potentiality. So definitely I can see a lot of potential going forward even. Yeah, and especially by hearing the recent Apple event, Apple is getting more serious into CarPlay. So I think it's going to be revolutionized. At least I can see, at least from the 10,000 feet height, how this app development looks like. So audience, like if somebody is want to getting into the app development, especially iOS, so this is the right time, get into and make most out of it. And once again, thanks a lot, Sirisha, for sharing your insights and valuable experiences about your development journey. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining this session. And once again, I really thank Sirisha for your time and your sharing all your thoughts. Really appreciate that. And team, we are going to come up with IT in 2023 top IT careers path. So especially in India, how IT is booming and what kind of domains you need to choose and how you can choose. I'm going to come up with a new video. Until then, sign off. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye.